evening, I'm Britt Clennett in Hong Kong and welcome to View TV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Hong Kong's biggest ever cocaine bust. Customs officers say they've seized $100 million worth of the drug. The city's top court weighs in on the use of a controversial charge to prosecute a variety of smartphone-related crimes. And Nissan's ousted chairman faces fresh legal troubles. Japanese prosecutors rearrest Carlos Ghosn. First up tonight, a High Court judge today handed down one of the harshest sentences for drug trafficking in recent years. A 41-year-old man was sentenced to 37 years and 4 months behind bars for smuggling $10 million worth of methamphetamine to Hong Kong in 2016. The man was the ringleader but escaped while he was on bail after his first trial. He was recaptured in April 2018. He had 2 accomplices. Both received 33-year jail terms in 2017. Police made the bust in Yau Ma Tei in 2016 and found 35 kilograms of meth, which the smugglers collected from a speedboat earlier that day.
The court was aware that the mastermind was the ringleader and instructed the first 2 defendants to fetch the drugs from the speedboat and as well as to supervise the delivery of the drugs. Police believe that the sentence is reasonable and it has deterrent effects to the drug trafficking syndicate because of the severe sentence.
Meanwhile, the city has made its largest ever cocaine bust. Authorities raided a Sha Tin flat yesterday and seized $100 million worth of the drug. Customs officers found a total of 91 kilograms of cocaine and other packaging tools in the flat. It's believed the cocaine came from South America. The officers also arrested a 41-year-old man whom they believe is a key member of a relatively new drug syndicate in Hong Kong. Authorities say the suspect was leaving his house to distribute the drugs when he got caught. Well, there's more fallout on the extradition law amendment debate. Today, former Justice Chief Elsie Leung joined the discussion, saying the public's concerns are unnecessary. According to Leung, the reason why the city hasn't had an extradition agreement with the mainland since the handover was because Hong Kongers had little confidence in the one country, two systems principle. But she says China's legal system has since been reformed, which means people shouldn't worry about the process.
It's been 20 years, and 20 years is a long time. China has undergone some judicial reforms, so can we really say that there's been no improvement? If we're talking about the quality of a legal system of a certain country, Hong Kong has long-term extradition agreements with many jurisdictions. Does each one of them have a judicial system as good as, if not better than ours?
Hong Kong's top court has ruled that a computer-related prosecution accusation can't be used as a one-size-fits-all charge. The decision by the Court of Final Appeal is being seen as a major blow to the Department of Justice, as Ryan Chang reports.
Obtaining access to a computer for criminal or dishonest gain. This charge will no longer apply if someone uses their own smartphone or computer to commit a crime. That comes as the Department of Justice today lost its final appeal to prosecute 4 school teachers accused of leaking test questions with their phones. The 5-judge panel said the teachers are not guilty because the charge was wrongly applied. Their verdict said the precise phrase obtaining access means using devices that don't belong to the suspect. The ruling is expected to impact how the DOJ prosecutes cyber-related crimes using what was seen as a catch-all charge.
Because of the Court of Final Appeal's verdict, some who've been wrongly accused of dishonest use of a computer in the past could have their judgments overturned.
However, others worry this could create a legal loophole for smartphone-related crimes, such as taking upskirt photos.
The Law Reform Commission has asked the government to establish sex crimes ordinances specific to these cases. Instead, they've been using the so-called online loitering crime for the sake of convenience.
At least a dozen cases are currently on hold because of confusion about the ordinance. Ryan Chang, View TV News.
9 Occupy Central activists will receive their verdicts next Tuesday regarding their roles in the civil disobedience movement in 2014. They're accused of causing public nuisance and inciting others to do so. Two of the leaders, Benny Tai and Chan Kin-man, today said they are prepared for any outcomes, including spending time behind bars. The pair said the protests have achieved more than they expected. They also asked Hong Kongers not to give up the fight for democracy.
I hope we can reignite the fire people have in their hearts. We may go to jail for this trial, but we hope that even if we receive prison time, we can still give people the energy they need to keep fighting.
Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. Auto titan Carlos Ghosn is back in hot water. Japanese prosecutors today arrested Ghosn for a fourth time on what media reports said was a new case involving alleged payments to a dealer in Oman. Our Tokyo correspondent Mayu Shida has more on this latest twist.
Carlos Ghosn's statement came out very quickly after his fourth rearrest. He called it outrageous and arbitrary and also slammed Nissan, saying this was their attempt to silence him by misleading the prosecutors. Keep in mind that this rearrest comes less than 24 hours after Ghosn tweeted for the first time that he would hold a news conference to tell his side of the story. The presser was scheduled for next Thursday, but that seems unlikely now because Tokyo officials raided his home early this morning and escorted him out in a car. Ghosn's lawyer Junichiro Hironaka spoke to reporters this afternoon and said they will strongly appeal this latest arrest because to arrest someone after being released on bail is almost unheard of. Hironaka also criticized the Japanese prosecutors for confiscating Ghosn's passport, diary, and also documents that were important to prepare for the trial. Now it's reported that the latest charges are about a payment made to a businessman in Oman. Sources have told Reuters this week that Renault had alerted French prosecutors about this suspicious activity in the Middle East. Now, Carlos Ghosn maintains his innocence, but the rearrest is certainly another fresh twist in his dramatic fall from grace.
Well, let's take a look at Greater China equity markets now. The city's Hang Seng Index slid 0.17% to close at 29,936 points. Utility and tech stocks were hit particularly hard. Mainland Chinese stocks were a little more upbeat, with confidence remaining high on outlook for US-China trade talks. The Shanghai Composite closed up 0.9% to 3,246 points. Tesla deliveries took a tumble in the company's first quarter, missing analyst expectations. Shipments fell 31%, much of that due to longer transit times. That's as the car maker struggled with the first consignments of the Model 3 sedan to Europe and China. But despite the disappointing numbers, Tesla says it still expects to deliver as many as 400,000 vehicles this year. Over in the Middle East, the UAE is moving towards rebuilding ties with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. This comes as Abu Dhabi calls on other Gulf states to reclaim the space taken by Russia and Iran. But as our Middle East correspondent Jacob Greaves reports, many Arab states are still wary of doing business with the war-torn country.
In a symbolic victory for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, the UAE flag now flies in Damascus. Since reopening their embassy, the UAE has also hosted a Syrian delegation to discuss cooperation in trade, infrastructure and agriculture, among others. And at a recent food exhibition in Dubai, Syrian businesses showed their appetite for boosting bilateral ties.
We already sell to the Arab world, but after the embassy is opened, we hope we can start dealing with the UAE. Hopefully, their relations can get better and better.
But that doesn't guarantee the type of investment Syria needs to rebuild the country. Whilst there might be some business representation, such as at this international food exhibition in Dubai, more potentially beneficial cooperation, such as in construction and energy, comes with added diplomatic complications. The UAE's foreign minister has called for more Arab states to engage with Syria to, quote, crowd the space taken by Russia and Iran. But that's not a view voiced by all Gulf states. Regional powerhouses Saudi Arabia and Qatar have been less openly supportive of rapprochement. And the biggest stumbling block of all could be the international pressure on Assad.
While the Gulf will be re-engaging, a lot will be a wait-and-see approach because there are still U.S. and different European sanctions, and that affects the ability for the international community writ large to participate in any type of reconstruction in Syria, and of course, companies that are working on an international level to be able to engage and be involved. They will want to avoid perhaps both stigma and legal consequences that may arise by getting involved in projects inside Syria itself.
Indeed, according to Reuters, sources say the US is lobbying Gulf nations to hold off on restoring ties with Syria. The next major rehabilitation of Assad's government could be reinstatement to the Arab League. But the group of nations recently said there was not yet the necessary consensus for that to happen. Success on the battlefield has seen Assad and his allies reclaim much of Syria. But the struggle to end the country's political and economic isolation amongst regional powers might just be getting started. Jacob Greaves for View TV in Dubai.
All right, time for a break now, but do stay with us. Up next, a battle of the small screen against the silver screen. Netflix finds a heavyweight in its corner in the debate over its Oscars eligibility.
One world, infinite visions. View TV 6.
A mix of celebrity guests, edgy musical acts, games and sketches.
Have you ever farted while?
All the time. The most sought party in the world. Hosted by one of the most lovable Englishmen in TV. The Late Late Show with James Corden. A talk show that guarantees to entertain you. Friday night at 10:30 on View TV 6. Have a blast.
Some say flying is safer than driving a car. But for some, boarding a plane can be a leap of faith. When something goes wrong during a flight,
the engine's on fire!
It can be catastrophic.
Mayday, mayday, mayday.
Investigate the stories behind horrific crashes. Unravel the secrets of air traffic organizations. Solve the air crash mysteries. Mayday. Saturday night at 8 on View TV 6.
Making money out of nothing? That's the dream of many.
There's money to be made here.
Let Sarah Moore fulfill your dreams.
Interesting looking things in there.
With the 30 million tons of garbage we throw out every year.
I want to make them commercial, saleable and expensive.
And the help from elite designers and craftsmen.
All the potential.
Turning trash into real cash.
Isn't it amazing?
Money for Nothing Season 2. Sunday night at 8 on View TV 6. The mystery. The discovery. The friendship. The love. A remarkable portrait of childhood. Steven Spielberg's touching tale of a homesick alien. Remains a piece of movie magic for young and old. Theatre 96, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Sunday night at 9 on View TV 6.
Welcome back. In Washington, both sides of the political aisle welcomed the head of NATO on Capitol Hill. But the Security Alliance chief came with a warning, cautioning the US about the threat posed by a more assertive Russia. Nathan Frandino reports.
Amid frayed ties with the U.S., NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg on Wednesday told the U.S. Congress to beware of a more assertive Russia, warning that the 70-year-old NATO alliance needed unity and a full commitment from Washington to meet that threat.
And we see a pattern of Russian behavior, including a massive military buildup from the Arctic to the Mediterranean, and from the Black Sea to the Baltic.
U.S. lawmakers invited the NATO leader to speak in a rare bipartisan move amid an off-and-on public feud between the security organization and President Donald Trump.
And we must overcome our differences now, because we will need our alliance even more in the future. We face unprecedented challenges no one nation can face alone.
Members of the House and Senate have staunchly defended the alliance, but Trump's strained relations with NATO began before he entered the White House.
I said it's obsolete and it's costing too much.
Trump deepened worries with his calls for closer U.S. ties with Russia. Stoltenberg insisted NATO remained as relevant as ever, citing what he said was Russia's violation of a key treaty known as the INF, which bars the deployment of intermediate-range nuclear weapons in Europe. Trump has said he plans to pull the U.S. out of the treaty this summer.
NATO has no intention of deploying land-based nuclear missiles in Europe. But NATO will always take the necessary steps to provide credible and effective deterrence.
Trump's chief demand has been that NATO member nations pay a greater share of defense costs, which he said was improving when he met Stoltenberg on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Stoltenberg cast the dispute as a plus for NATO.
This is good for Europe, and it's good for America.
Stoltenberg said NATO member countries are adding billions to their defense spending, $41 billion in the last 2 years, with that figure expected to rise to $100 billion next year.
Thank you.
After much back and forth, Britain's Parliament has approved legislation to seek a Brexit delay. But there's still a long way to go before the country officially leaves the EU. The deadlock has forced Prime Minister Theresa May to hold talks with the opposition. That's despite their difference of opinion. Matthew Larentonda reports.
The leader of Britain's main opposition party says his first round of talks with Prime Minister Theresa May to break the Brexit crisis deadlock was, quote, useful, but inconclusive. But in negotiating with Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party, some Brexit hardliners in May's own Conservative Party say she's conversing with the enemy.
Prime Minister, will it be a Labour Brexit?
2 more of her junior ministers resigned in protest on Wednesday.
I welcome the Prime Minister's offer.
I think there are actually a number of areas that we agree on in relation to Brexit.
May came to the Labour Party after her Brexit deal was voted down 3 times in Parliament, largely because of those hardliners. This could be a small sign of progress for her. More talks are expected soon. The Labour Party's stated policy is that it wants the country to maintain tight trade relationships with Europe in what's called a customs union, a so-called soft Brexit. They also want to keep EU standards on workers' rights and environmental regulation, among other things. Although in reality, Labour isn't unified in those beliefs because some members come from districts who voted heavily in favour of Brexit.
Former US Vice President Joe Biden has pledged to be more mindful of personal space. That's after 2 women accused him of unwanted physical contact.
You know, social norms have begun to change, they've shifted, and the boundaries of protecting personal...
In a video posted on Twitter, Biden says he never meant any harm. He admitted being hands-on with constituents throughout his long career in politics. One woman had accused him of kissing her on the back of the head, another of rubbing noses with her. Biden is yet to announce whether he'll join the 2020 presidential race. Staying in the US, where a judge has warned parents accused in a high-profile college admissions scandal to be careful while discussing it with their children as they are potential witnesses. Actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin are among a group of defendants who were also told to limit their international travel. 33 wealthy parents are entangled in what's been dubbed Operation Varsity Blues. The elaborate scheme helped their kids get into top colleges by cheating on entrance exams and paying bribes to coaches. As streaming platforms like Netflix make big waves at the Oscars, they've also racked up several high-profile opponents. The fierce debate in Hollywood has even prompted the US Department of Justice to issue a warning, as Yahara Jaquez reports.
There's a contentious debate in Hollywood over whether Netflix movies should be eligible for Academy Awards. And an unexpected voice joined the argument: the U.S. Department of Justice. In a letter, the DOJ warned the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences that rules which might hurt streaming services' eligibility could run afoul of federal antitrust laws. The world of show business is currently locked in a bitter battle between the silver screen and new streaming services. Earlier this year, at the 91st Academy Awards, Netflix's Roma walked away with 3 Oscars and competed for Best Picture, which prompted show business icons such as Steven Spielberg to push back and stand up for the classic movie theater experience.
My entire life has been, spent trying to give audiences something in a large forum, and I love the whole feeling of social interaction outside. When you leave your house, you park your car, you go somewhere. Those are the kind of movies and audiences I like to talk to.
Spielberg has said the small screen nature of the Netflix experience means its content belongs in the made-for-TV category and should be considered eligible for the Emmys. Current Oscar rules require films have a theatrical release and be screened somewhere in LA County. Netflix movies such as Roma often have simultaneous theatrical and digital releases. Spielberg and others are reportedly expected to push for rules that would require award-eligible films to play in theaters before they appear anywhere else, effectively forcing Netflix to take a theater-first route if it wants a golden statue. And that's where the Justice Department weighed in. The feds warned if a rule change is meant to exclude a streaming service and that exclusion hurts the service's revenues, it could be seen as anti-competitive. An Academy spokesperson said it had received the letter and that any rule changes would be considered at a meeting in late April.
All right, time for sports. The breakneck pace at the top of the Premier League continues as the advantage swung back to Manchester City after they beat Cardiff 2-0 last night. Goals from Leroy Sané and Kevin De Bruyne on his return from injury capped the victory. The Citizens should have won by a much bigger margin, but nonetheless regained the initiative over title rivals Liverpool. City have now played the same number of games and will retain the league if they win their remaining games. Meanwhile, Tottenham Hotspur marked a long-awaited first home match in their new stadium with a vital 2-0 win over Crystal Palace. It was hardly a classic to mark the official opening of the spectacular 62,000-seat eponymous ground. But second-half goals by Son Heung-min and Christian Eriksen ensured the London club began a new era with a win. Victory lifts Spurs back into third spot, having been overtaken by local rivals Arsenal at the weekend. And finally, you know her as one of the greatest tennis players of all time. But 23-time Grand Slam singles champion Serena Williams has also been a catalyst for sweeping changes in the sport. That includes protecting the rankings of mothers. Freddie Joyner reports.
It's been great. It's been the best thing that I've done in my life.
And that thing for 23-time Grand Slam singles champion Serena Williams was having her baby girl, Alexis Olympia Ohanian Jr., in September of 2017. Serena, who started appearing Wednesday in ads for Pampers alongside her daughter, sat down with Reuters to talk about how having her baby has changed her life and career.
Oh, she's changed everything. Like, she's just, first of all, my life is different. As a person, I feel like the softer side of Serena shows through more. It's always been around, but it just kind of shows through in the public more.
Serena had major health complications during her pregnancy, having to be bedridden the first 6 weeks of motherhood, suffering with a large hematoma. And to make matters worse, during her time off from tennis, her ranking dropped significantly, going from #1 in the world falling all the way to 453rd, a rule that has since been changed by the World Tennis Association to protect mothers in the sport.
So I think tennis has made some huge steps. They've already started adapting. If you get pregnant and have a child, you can have your ranking for, I think it's about 3 years, I think, up to 3 years. So it's great. So if you have a hard time coming back or a hard pregnancy, you won't feel the pressure like I did to come back and then to kind of try to get your ranking together. It wasn't very easy.
Serena, who is currently nursing a left ankle injury, is still on the hunt for her first Grand Slam title since becoming a mom. She made it to 2 Grand Slam finals in 2018.
That's it for now. Do join us again a bit later on for an update on the stories that are shaping your world. I'm Britt Clennett, and this is View TV News.
Coming up next, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic Season 6.
Begin